Robyn Hood, and buckle up because it's going to be a bumpy ride, and there's not even any Coco to make it better. Coco is a strange one because she kind of has a baby face and then she turns round and it's like wham. For the cosplay this time, I'm kind of out of pretty women dressed as Robyn Hood, but I did find this story about a muscular Frenchman who likes to dress up as Sailor Moon. For reasons. From the story, he posts these pictures on Instagram and loses followers every time he does it, but he will just not be stopped. He just keeps on doing it. Last episode in Robyn Hood, most of the people from Sherwood Tower got arrested basically for nothing. Some people threw paper cups at someone who crashed the stage at their street party, so the riot police came out, and I'm not even sure what this guy was supposed to be doing wrong. I think he was stood there trying to guess the amount of jelly beans in a jar, and the next thing he knows his torso is being liquidised by riot police batons. The Sherwood residents on the street all get arrested without charges. The sheriff claims that they've been detained. But they've been arrested. They're loaded onto a prison bus. At no point have they even read their rights, and they're not taken to a police station. They're processed and have their personal belongings taken. They're photographed and are thrown in a cage in a freezing cold room with offensively loud music being blasted at them. They're basically taken to a black site to be tortured. Little John ends up with his hands tied to a ceiling, being electrocuted by someone in a bunny outfit, and it better be Coco in the bunny outfit. And no, it isn't. Oh come on, give me something. And I'm not even sure what country this is supposed to be set in, because this would all be so wildly illegal in the USA, where I thought this show was supposed to be set. So illegal that the police would all probably end up in jail for this. I'm not sure where this would be legal at this time. North Korea, Russia, China, at the current pace maybe Canada, because while looking for examples of if this kind of police misconduct ever happens, I found a clip that claimed to be of multiple police officers in Ottawa in what's claimed to be unmarked uniforms holding down a Canadian protester who was, according to him, not even resisting, and repeatedly kneeing him hard in the ribs like it's a UFC fight, to the extent that he supposedly ended up in hospital. And when you watch the video, it's kind of hard to defend. I'll put a link below to the story in the press that includes the full video, because I don't want to risk putting someone actually being hurt into a YouTube video. One of the things this man supposedly did wrong was he was charged with honking his horn when the government told him not to. That and 2 counts of mischief. Is Canada what Robyn Hood is secretly about? Because if so, that would maybe be a genius move. If you're having a go at the Canadian government and getting them to pay for it. Sadly, I don't buy that story, because anyone clever enough to do that would be clever enough to write character development or song lyrics that rhyme. But maybe I should check if there's a video of Justin Trudeau somewhere in a bunny outfit electrocuting people, because at this point I genuinely wouldn't put it past him. And hot take here, this one's controversial. The police really shouldn't be acting like this, like hired goons.
Who is it?
Goons.
Who?
Hired goons.
Hired goons? You know, you could have just called me.
Oh, yes, but the telephone is so impersonal. I prefer the hands-on touch you only get with hired goons.
Hired goons?
The police don't really have a right to beat people who aren't resisting. If you want riots, this is a very good way to get them. This puts people and the police in danger. I do sometimes read stories from the US in the press where I find it hard to believe the police ever did it or got away with it, like using civil forfeiture rules to just steal money from people without ever even charging them with a crime, or just slashing car tyres because someone may use the car at some point in the future to commit a crime at some point, or a video I just got on my YouTube feed from Nate the Lawyer as I was writing this about 2 US cops assaulting and tasing a deaf man for not complying with their verbal instructions, or another one also from Nate the Lawyer about cops handcuffing a suspect in a car that they left on railroad tracks. You'll never guess what happened next. But one of the officers involved just got convicted for that. What the police do in Robyn Hood is on a whole other level. The police perform unauthorised surgery on Tuck without his consent and cut the metal implants out of his fingers. This episode is crazy. I'm not sure if this show is even supposed to be set in our world at this point, or if it is, what country it's supposed to be set in, because the show has done no world building. It seems to be set in some sort of dystopian future ruled by John Prince and Axe body spray. Is this supposed to be America? Because I can't see police in America getting away with this. Arresting people without charges, just people who were standing quietly in a street, throwing them in a freezing cage and torturing them. The Hoods stole some car parts. They aren't Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and the police can't even prove they had the Hoods in their cages. They're doing this to people who are innocent. So what can I say about this show? Well, the acting is around or slightly below average. It's mostly functional, but there aren't performances that I would say are great, and there aren't any world-class bad performances either. But sadly, the British girl playing Robyn is one of the worst actors in the whole show. The directing and production on the whole is not bad. The sound, the shot composition, nothing stands out to me as horrible or great. The problem is the story and the writing again, and this is maybe to be expected from Director X, who's mostly done music videos. They've taken a medieval story and transplanted it into the modern era where it doesn't fit or work, and filled it with hot-button political issues from 3 years ago. They're not fighting an absolute monarch with no legal recourse, they're fighting a property developer and a corrupt sheriff in a time when a video of them doing any of the many very illegal things they've done would land them in jail, and the police just wantonly break the law in front of video cameras. This isn't the way anything works in our world. The mayor knows what the police have done. There are parents angry that the police just kidnapped their children, and they did! Live on camera, live on national television. Never mind the mayor. If this was in the real United States, the president would be all over this. The sheriff tells the mayor that she found a weapon and can therefore detain people on reasonable grounds. Reasonable grounds of what? And you haven't detained them. It appears to be legal to own a bow and carry it in the middle of a city in the US. And she didn't even catch anyone holding the bow. She found it on a table. Then she takes the bow that's supposed to be a priceless antique belonging to John Prince and snaps it over a knee. For reasons. I mean, yeah. It's not like John Prince will want that priceless artefact back. The sheriff also makes them torture themselves by putting them in stress positions under threat of shouting at them.
Chin up. Look at me. The pain stops when I get a name. Get up!
Leave her alone.
And they probably should have shown what happens if they just sit down, because this is all pretty silly. They aren't even restrained, and there are 3 of them against the sheriff and a guard. But it's the same story with this show. The good guys only ever stand a chance due to the sheer incompetence of the bad guys. The torturer in the bunny suit is one of the sheriff's old friends from Catholic school who pretends to be a well-meaning social worker and tries to manipulate the Sherwooders into turning on each other. She wins their trust by sneaking a phone to Robyn, who calls up her sister, and the sister just happens to hear the loud music in the background, which she describes to her boyfriend, young Tommy Wiseau, and what are the chances? It just so happens he recognises the music. It turns out his family are illegal immigrants, and he was held there with his family in the exact same facility that Robyn is being held in, and knows how to get to it. So they go there on foot, where the bad guys have just conveniently left the prison bus out front for reasons. Robyn convinces the torturer that the Hoods have loot that she can take her to, so they go somewhere quiet. The torturer conveniently turns her back and Robyn chokes her unconscious. The guards zip-tied Robyn's hands and didn't even bother to do it behind her back. Maybe 20 Sherwooders are being held by what looks like the sheriff, 2 officers and one of the sheriff's old school friends. Robyn then puts on the bunny outfit, frees little John, knocks out the guards and tases the sheriff, and they all go home to relax. And what are they doing? You had them! Tie the sheriff up and go back to the holding facility with cameras. You have evidence that the police just illegally arrested and tortured you. No? You're just going to go home and relax. Go home and go to bed with little John. You had them! All you needed to get was evidence, and instead you just go home with little John and raid the cookie jar full of condoms. Bare minimum after what the sheriff just did. If you don't think she's going to face any real justice after what she just did, She just threw you in a cage and tortured you. I think at that point, she's voided the right to have functioning arms and legs. The episode ends with everyone in Sherwood getting an eviction notice because the mayor has sold them out to John Prince and the sale of Sherwood has gone ahead. John Prince is now in his tower celebrating and dancing to the Hood's music, and this episode was shockingly bad. And this is the problem with episode 1 being rated as rock bottom, a 1 star out of 10 on IMDb, because I think this one was worse than episode 1, and the scale can't get any lower, though despite maybe being worse than episode 1, it's still a 1 out of 10. Only 1 episode left now, maybe they can pull it back in the finale.
You think it's a game, but really it's not. Show with the force becoming.
Fuck. Jesus.
What about the other Jedi spread across the galaxy?